Hello everyone, this is Dr. Ron Cravey. Ernest Sinclair and I would like to welcome you to part 1 of a 6-part video training series on local evaluations for 21st century programs in Iowa. This training series was developed under the direction of Vic Jarvis at the Iowa DOE. We hope that evaluators and program directors alike will find it helpful. Before we start our training, I want to point out that if you have any questions at any time on your local evaluation, contact one of the 3 people in this list and they will certainly do all they can to assist you. This first video of 6 is going to discuss some documents found on the Iowa DOE website. There are 5 of these documents and we're going to go into details on the first 4 in this video and then talk about the local evaluation form in the next 5 videos. So, of course, this link's really long for you to type in, but if you will email one of the people in this list, they will be happy to send you that link. But let's take a look at what we see when we go to that website. And we see something like this, not exact, of course, because it has to change as documents are updated and programs are updated. But there's lots of good information, and you do need to scroll down. And when you scroll down far enough, you will get to evaluation and professional development support, and the documents will be in here listed. The site at this moment in time might look a little different than this because things change and they have to be updated. But let's take a look now at 4 of these documents. First, let's look at the Monitoring of Evaluation Guidance document that looks like this. You'll download it. What this document does is it outlines the requirements for a local evaluation per what you filled out as your grant. Notice there that your program needs to have ongoing monitoring, and you can refine your program as you go along. Notice that there's a lot of things that grantees have to do with the Iowa Department of Education to help their program. But for our purposes, we certainly want to point out that grantees are required to participate in statewide evaluation activities. So it is a requirement, not just something you might want to do. Local evaluations are public, and you do need to post them on a website, and we'll find out later that you'll have to provide us with the exact URL, not just a general website. And notice in red, you're supposed to have an experienced evaluator. You shouldn't do this yourself. It needs to be an outside evaluator. Now, one thing that's very important, there are other things in here that you should read. I don't want to read every sentence to you, but you certainly should look at this. But one thing we want to point out, there is an APR data system. Local evaluators really don't do much with this, but it's important, and we'll discuss that later in another evaluation. But this document, one statement that's extremely important, notice it's in large and highlighted in yellow, that your actual evaluation is used by the state to determine whether your grant will be renewed. So you need to make every effort to get your evaluation as complete and as good as possible so that you can certainly continue your funding, because this program is important to the students. Now let's take a look at the Iowa Local Evaluator Timeline. This gives an idea to your, if you're an evaluator, on what should be happening at different times of the year. First thing that's important to know is the local evaluation is actually going to report on progress for the previous school year, the previous summer, fall, and spring. It's always a year behind. So you can read things that you should be doing during this time. April and May, you're starting to collect data. June, July, you should already have all your data because it's for the previous year. So that summer of June and July, you're not collecting that data. In August, you can start working on things. you must use the local evaluation form. We've had questions on, why did we change this? Why can't I use, I've been doing evaluations a long time. Why don't I use my form? Well, in the past, we could aggregate reports. Once people entered information data into the APR system, we could get that data back, so we knew all the data. Unfortunately, the new system does not provide any reporting. It doesn't let us get that data back. So this means extra work for the program directors, unfortunately, because not only do they have to enter the data into the APR system, they also have to provide it to the local evaluator so they can put it in the local evaluation form. Now you can also add your own format if you wish. We recommend that you have more than one evaluation. We like to call one a snapshot version. 1 or 2 pages that you can share with the general public to kind of highlight things, because they're not going to read many pages. Just a couple pages to summarize and hit the high spots can really help you. Notice that local evaluations can be submitted from September to November 30th is the deadline. Word format only is how we want it. Don't send PDFs. We have to do cutting and pasting and analyzing. It's easier to do that from Word. And once again, notice that web posting, it has to be posted online. You're going to have to provide us with the exact URL. There is a method if you need an extension, because you can't get it done by November 30th because of some extenuating circumstances. You can send an email, a communique with Vic Jaris, and he can provide a 30-day extension if he agrees with your reasoning. And just so you know, we're not idle. Once we start getting these, we start reading them over, see if we need more information, and we'll contact local evaluators and program directors if we need more stuff. In April, there's a wonderful impact conference. Program directors share their stuff. You can submit your local evaluation. This is a misprint, obviously. You want to just send it in Word only to one of the 3 people, which just happens to match the 3 people on the list that we mentioned before. Now let's take a look now at the local evaluation guidelines document, if I can find it. Here we go. This allows program directors to see what should your evaluator be doing. What are the requirements when you hire a local evaluator? I think it's important for evaluators to know this so that they know what is expected of them. Notice that they have to go to the evaluator training, and watching these videos is your evaluator training. November 30th is the deadline. They're required to do that. We've had a problem in the past with a local evaluator that signs up to do the evaluation work and they subcontract that out to someone. The example here is a university evaluator who turns it over to someone else. And if your evaluator doesn't meet the deadline, it's recommended you get some kind of discount because they're not meeting their contractual obligations. But it points out in red, as you can see, that it's not the local evaluator who's the final person that responsible. The responsibility falls upon the program itself, the program directors, in the school district, in case a superintendent. So it's important they do that. I will just real quick mention you can get a extension, as we mentioned in the document before, by contacting Vic Jaris. Now, there's talks about APR requirements that we did. The important thing to remember about APR as a local evaluator is the data in the AP that was entered in APR should match what's in the local evaluation. And then it lists some things that the program evaluator is responsible for. Before looking at those, let me mention one more thing. We know the deadline is November 30th to turn in. I highly recommend that local evaluators have that ready earlier, so they can sit down with the program director and go through it and check it for mathematical errors, grammatical errors. You don't want to turn in things that are wrong. To use a school analogy, you want to get an A+ on this, not a B, because you had some math that was wrong. So if we look at the external program director, evaluator, what are they responsible for? Here's a list. I'm not going to read all these because I think I'm insulting your intelligence if I do that. But basically, they need to make sure they attend the trainings, which is at this time is this set of videos. They need to help the local program director collect and analyze data. They need to help develop timelines, and it's their responsibility to analyze that data, whatever it is. One thing that we've noticed that is left out a lot is providing recommendations. You should listen to the local evaluator, should listen to the program director, but this is where the local evaluator actually gives what they feel would best help the program in the future for recommendations. We'll get into recommendations in detail when we discuss the local evaluation form itself. And although you do have to provide a web posting of your local evaluation, there should be other ways to discuss these things. I mentioned earlier maybe a 2-page summary of the evaluation to share with people. Your local evaluator sometimes will have bigger weight discussing this with key stakeholders than the actual program director. Let's take a look now at the teacher survey. As a local evaluator, you would not actually be involved in this, but teachers that have students in the program fill this out on each one of their students. This column, changes in behavior which teachers reported. They either did not need to improve, or they did need to improve, in which case one of these, they made significant improvements, slight, they went down, or maybe they just stayed the same. This is important for 2 reasons. For one big reason for us: completing homework to your satisfaction, participating in class, and behaving well in class are GPR, Government Performance and Results Act measures. And this document, this teacher survey results, provide the only acceptable measure for these GPRA. For behaving well in class, it's very easy. You'll find out when we see the form. You'll say how the teachers let you know. The program directors will collate these forms. They will tell us how many students needed improvement and how many of those made improvements. Very simple. Unfortunately, GPRA combines completing homework to your satisfaction and participating in class. There is no guidance from the Federal Department of Education on how to combine these. That is going to be something that the program director and the local evaluator should work out. Should you add these together? Should you go to the trouble to try to make them separate? But in the GPR form you're going to fill out, you can't put them separately. You have to combine them somehow. So, we've discussed these 4 documents, and we're going to discuss the local evaluation form in the next video. I'll point out one more time, if you have any questions in any of the training, contact one of these 3 people and they'll help you. I hope you enjoyed this, or at least learned something, and we'll talk to you again in video 2. Thank you.